Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with soprano saxophonist Stephane Spira on his new 2020 project. We spoke back in May of 2020 about this brand new album, what's been going on during this COVID-19 world of ours. Enjoy.
How's everything going in France?
Everything is going great, actually. It's really nice I'm enjoying family life now, and, I had my son, well, you remember the new playground was made when my son was just born, and it's really nice to be in France as a family and close to nature and the sea. It's beautiful, really. It's the quality of life is just I used to live in Paris before, so even it's a new chapter, which is it's just amazing. We feel really lucky to be here.
Let me ask you this. When the lockdown started, I kind of want your story. Like, when did you start noticing that we were going to go into no live shows? When did your shows get canceled? What were kind of the circumstances?
Well, in France, the real lockdown started March 11. That's the date it really started, officially, closing schools and most of the only first necessity place were still open, drugstore, pharmacy or post office or things like that. But for the rest, and of course with if you wanted to go to the post office, you had to have a good reason for that. So since March 11, and now they're starting to open up now. Actually, my shows in Paris were scheduled for the Improkofiev, the new release. My shows were we had two shows in Paris just now, May 29 and 30th, this weekend. So this was of course canceled, and plus Steve Wood was in New York. Of course his flight was canceled. So we do not know when we're going to do the release concert, at least in France, and even less. I don't know when I'll be able to come in the States or at least in New York and do a concert, because I'd love, my plan was to, anyhow, not to disappear from the New York scene and try to come back now and then and, be able to perform some music there. So, but right now, of course, everything is, we don't really know. For even the release of the album, everything was planned for May 22nd. So, but the distributor in France, what we did is that, and I think it's not a bad option. Even without the virus, I realize what we end up doing is that we couldn't cancel or go back on the digital release, which was May 22nd, but we postponed the CD release. So it's officially postponed to June 19th. That's where we are now. So it's in France. The journalist, I don't know what's your situation in the States, and I'm sure it depends also on which state you are in. But in France, I can feel now that people start to go back to work, and that the journalists, I start to get feedback from journalists in France.
Things are kind of starting to open back up a little bit here.
Yeah.
So my question is, you got this wonderful new album, and it's going to come out during a pandemic. People are going to have more time to listen to it, but you can't back any of this up with live music. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I don't know how you can put that in the interview. I have to be perfectly honest here. I wasn't performing that much with my music. I was, it's now I believe my sixth album. So for the last 15 years or so, I've been really building my projects, and I feel really like I'm really carrying the weight, not all by myself, because lucky for me, as time goes by and projects are recording after recording, I start to to feel like I have a team working with me who believes, who at least who appreciates my music and wants to defend it. Like Anne Braithwaite, in this, and I, it's like I feel like with every album I get people who, I kind of federate people around me. But it's really a process. And about the concerts, I mean, I play kind of regularly in Paris, meaning by that I will play when I have a new album coming out. I know I can play at the Sunset Jazz Club, I can play Rue des Lombards. But as far as festivals are concerned, and like, let's call it like bigger scenes, or I mean, we know that you kind of need a booking agent for that kind of stuff. And I mean, to put it bluntly, I never was able to get one really interested in my music, which I'm not complaining, but it's just so. All this to say that on the live, if you talk about playing my writing and my own music on stage, I mean, the occasions where it wasn't so often, to be honest. So I almost feel like, in a way, like you said, people will have a chance to hear the new album. They have a bit more time that they would normally do, and also because there are not that many performing scenes, I almost feel like, in a way, I get a bit more room. My music gets a bit of more room to be heard. I don't know if my English is. But I don't know if you follow me there. It's like usually there are these machineries of like, where the big names, they come, they have a release, and boom, there is all this promotion, and that goes, and then they have the concert. So it's like it's really hard for you to be heard if you don't have that kind of backup and structure. And I have somehow I have the feeling that because that's not right now, that's not possible. Actually, most of these machineries are actually now waiting until like October or so, at least in France. And it's like somehow I feel like there is a space for me. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, time will tell if I'm right or wrong on this. But like if I look actually I looked a bit on Apple Music and Spotify, and without going into the zero revenue it brings, I mean, I can see that there are more people listening to it than usual, than the previous album. So I don't know, I mean, if that will make a difference in the end, but the fact is that there are more people listening to the feature song, which is Lance, from the album. So the Carla Bley that I choose, to be featured and kind of using as a pre-release. And this one is kind of more heard than any songs I recorded before. So I don't know. I mean, but like for me, the release concerts I was supposed to, even if I play in New York, if I find a way to do a release concert, maybe Kitano or Smalls or it's like I will do one night at the best. I will do 2 nights to introduce my music in New York or to play it live. And, then normally you have a booking agent and said, then you do this. It's like, but, and again, I'm not complaining. It's just I never got to that point. I don't, so, and of course it's a vicious circle, because to get to that point, basically they expect you to sell recordings, and of course, when you sell recordings, we all know that then it's not a problem to have a booking agent. So it's kind of we say in French, the serpent.
And I guess let's kind of switch tracks here. Talk to me a little bit about the artistic approach to this album. It's a wonderful album. Talk to me a little bit about how you put this album together.
Okay, so the first there was, as I came back to, there is a lot to tell here. I mean, when I came back to France, I mean, Giovanni Mirabassi was really a musical, partner that I did a recording with. Actually, just before I left to New York. So I left to New York after my father passed away, and as a tribute to my father, I did a duo album with Giovanni Mirabassi, the piano player, called Spira, and the title of the album was Spira Bassi, because it was a duo album, and of course it's a very special album for me because it was a tribute to my father after he passed away. So it will always be kind of unique in my discography. I mean, it has a special place, obviously, because of why it was made and how it was made. So when I left, I used to come back. I did well, it's around about Jubim, but then I did it in between. So when I was coming back to France now and then, I would go and hang out with Giovanni, and we would do a couple sessions, and we both knew that we wanted to do another recording, but I didn't want to do something that would be just a copy of the duo album. I wanted something that would sound a bit different. We still our identity, but I believe we have a lot of musical complicity together. And of course, which was amazing, is that I would come and see him, and every time it felt like we never left each other musically in a way. It was really, we really have. I think we both love melody, and we have definitely a common love for melody and lyricism and stuff like that. And plus, he has a classical background. So we both knew. I knew I wanted to do another recording with him, and when I came back to France, it's just I felt like we felt, well, now is the time. It's the time. Now is the time to get back together and do something. And it's like closing the loop. I recorded with him right before I left to the States, and this is a new chapter, and it felt totally natural to get back together. But I didn't want to get in the intimistic duo. I wanted to really do a quartet, and I had this Prokofiev. I had been writing or stealing a bit from Prokofiev on this violin concerto and kind of making it a bit my own. For a while, I was working with that since we had the piano in New York. Right after New Playground came out, I started working on that. It was something I had in my mind for a very long time. But when I discovered that piece, it was somewhere in 2007, I believe, or I think I was in Turkey. I was playing in a festival for once, and a journalist he said, wow, it was after my first release, first page, and he said he loved my music, and there was something, and he said you should listen to that because you're obviously very interested in harmony and stuff, and he gave me that on a tape, and I listened, and I thought it was incredible. I immediately fell in love with this violin concerto because I think the melodies are really, it's very lyrical, and the melodies are, you could almost whistle them, and at the same time the harmonies are very complex, and I love that kind of combination. But I knew that for me, as a self-taught musician at that time, I knew I would love to do something with it, but I also knew I needed time to be able to actually transcribe the harmonies in a way, finding the right chords that makes it workable in a jazz context. So I really put that aside in my brains, and did some work on harmony. Went to the evening class at the Juilliard, worked a bit on the piano when I was in New York, started working a bit more the harmonies on the piano, and then I said, oh, why don't maybe now is the time for me to get back to that. And then because of the content, because of the classical texture, because of the lyricism that's in there in those pieces, that's it. That's, of course, I mean, Spira Bassi is going to carry those tunes, obviously. And then I completed that. So it was really the first. I had this, and I didn't want to make an album like all about Prokofiev. I didn't want to make it like a, like a concept album, because it's not who I am. I just love that concerto, and I thought with this concerto, I knew I could have for me, extract nice jazz tunes, but I wasn't trying to make a whole album out of that, because I didn't feel right to me. So that these are the tunes that make sense, that are coming naturally, and I want to complete that to make it just an album. But I choose the title of Improkofiev because I thought, well, it's about half of the album, and I also love the sound of the task. I thought it was nice to. It is the title of the album, but it just, I think it's a bit intriguing. And of course, I used Spira, which was the title of the first album, as almost the name of the band, even if we're almost co-leading it. I mean, I would say that Giovanni's, it's a bit like, Giovanni, I mean, I couldn't replace Giovanni in the band. So because our sound are really linked together, and it's a bit like, it's a bit like Dave Brubeck Quartet. I mean, he didn't put Paul Desmond's name on it, but I mean, let's be honest. Without Paul Desmond, it's the Dave Brubeck Quartet. It's not the Dave Brubeck Quartet anymore. So it's like, and he was also contributing to the writing. So it's just an example that comes to my mind. But it's a bit that I think we have this complicity together, and I thought it made total sense to really feature that on the title of the album, because it's a collaboration. Even if I'm doing the writing and I come up with the project and carry it like previous albums, but I think Giovanni's presence is very important in this one. And moving on to the other musicians, then there is Steve Wood, whom you know already, and it's I really it's like I said, with the years you find people that I trust musically, but not only that I appreciate as human beings. I think it's like, especially in New York, like finding a good player. Even finding an outstanding player in New York City is not really a problem. Whatever instrument you want to pick, whatever style in jazz, it's just incredible, which is why it's so unique even now. So, but with Steve, we have this. It goes beyond that, which is why I love. Where I just can't imagine. Like, I'm already thinking about the next one, and I already called him. It's like it's a friendship. It's a musical. It's like these are these people I met in New York, or at least when I was there. And in a way, it's like a team that I'm building with the years, and I just enjoy working with them, because I know I can trust, and there is no ego. We can talk freely. If something doesn't work, it's not we don't try to impress each other or anything like that. It's just we care about the music and trying to do something that's truthful and honest as much as we can. So Steve and Giovanni, definitely. Giovanni goes back a bit, of course, before that, but Steve is definitely the musical soulmate I found in New York City, for sure, with whom I just love to work with, and he takes the time. I can send him ideas, and he'll tell me, we can talk. He makes the music evolve, really, and it's not just about coming, doing the gig or the recording session and disappearing after that. So I think that's priceless.
That's great.
Yeah, and Donald Contomanu, with the son of Elizabeth. Maybe you know Elizabeth Contamanu, great singer. When we did in between already, so we're back in 2014, we did the recording with Jonathan Blake and Steve Wood, and when we came to, and Glenn Ferris, who lives in Paris. And so when we came to Paris, I mean, Jonathan was, I mean, he's a outstanding player, and of course, maybe not right now, but usually a lot on the road, either with Kenny Barron or
you gave me a good overview, a very thorough overview.
Okay,
I think we're really
so, but just one sentence. Like when we did the thing with Jonathan Blake, he was on the road, and we came to Paris. He couldn't make it, and so Steve, we called Donald to sub for Jonathan Blake in Paris. So this is back in 2014, and that's how it started. They connected really well with Steve, and Steve says, wow, I'm enjoying so much to play with that guy. So, the same, I put that in the corner of my mind. I say, okay, check, good to know. I mean, if something comes up, we have something here, It's like, and we came back for the new playground, and Jimmy McBride, same, couldn't do it. And so we called again Donald, and again it was a lot of fun. So when I did the recording with the French team, it just was obvious with Steve. We were all excited to have Donald on board.
Beautiful, right on. Hey, thank you again for taking some time to talk to Neon Jazz. Stay safe. I appreciate the new album, and good luck with it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joe. Bye.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Paris, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Stephane for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.